Yo YouTube, welcome back to Sleepers and Supercars. Today we're down here at Retro Resus in Bridgwater to get that rebuild source, baby. So we're looking for big power. So today we're going to speak to Tom, the owner down here, what he's got planned for this build, what we need to get, you know, to kind of try and talk a bit of money, get the ball rolling on this engine rebuild. It's a long process, so the rebuild itself is probably going to take about a month. And then I'm going to try and just earn money and pay for the rest of the stuff. The sponsor I have, you know, they provided the car for me, but I've had to look at other means of income to try and pay for the rebuild itself. So stay tuned, this one should be interesting.
Sorry, yeah, far away.
So we're back here with Tom from Retro Resus. He's going to make the payment and stuff, but he's just going to talk us through briefly what we've got planned with my car. So here it is, take it away.
Right. Okay, you're talking figures around 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
So we've been thinking Garrett G30 770 turbo
Okay.
on a fully built motor, Nortec manifold, downpipe, and depends on how far you want to go, how many extras you have from there.
Okay.
So engine wise, we'd be talking fully forged, probably going with something like a Wiseco boost line Conrod with a mild motorsport pistons. Full girdle kit, oil pump upgrade, Supertech valve train, the list goes on.
And I'm just thinking money, man. Oh my god. Okay.
You've just seen pound signs every time I've opened my mouth. But
jeez.
yeah, well, so we've got to start off with a strong motor to start off with.
Yeah.
The basis is all in the engine build, and then we go from there. So keeping your original DQ250 transmission.
Yeah.
And working our way up really.
So a question, sorry to cut you there.
Yeah,
The question I've got for you is, a lot of people have commented on my YouTube about if I'm running big power, is the DSG going to take it?
The DSG will take it. The newer versions of yours are better.
Yeah.
So yours runs a DQ250 gearbox, so it's the Mark 7 and the S3 those versions are better. People are running 600 plus horsepower on those fairly reliably with the TVS software and the clutch packs.
Okay.
You can go to a DQ500, which is near on bulletproof. That 1200 horsepower Golf we're running, that's got DQ500 box.
Okay.
So yeah, we can try
big money.
Unfortunately, they're big money. Yeah.
When you say big money, because I'm really a starting YouTuber, you know. I'm not.
You won't pick up a full setup for less than sort of $3 grand upwards.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ.
But you know,
you want that big power, you pay the money.
This is the problem. You've got to pay to play. Certainly, we'll start off by building you an engine that can cope with the power figures you want. Build your turbo kit for it, and go from there. And we can wrap it up till we have troubles with the box. But certainly, the boxes take fairly big power on them. It would be the clutch pack that will become the weak issue first.
Okay.
But yeah, we can look into that when we get there. It depends on how far you want to go. We need to get the motor in and get it sort of running, bedded in, and start the tuning. So we'll build you your engine first, and you can see how many pennies you want to spend on that.
So just for YouTube purposes, when you say build the engine, so especially on my S3, for anybody looking to do it, what does build your engine mean in terms of my car?
So we'll build you an engine from scratch for your car. Start off with a bare block, and we will use a standard crank on that, but everything else in it will be outrated. So the valve springs, the valve retainers, the valve collets, the valves themselves, like I say, a block girdle kit to actually strengthen the block itself to stop it twisting under load. Conrods, bearings, bottom end bolts, everything, pistons, the whole lot is specifically built, it's hand built. All the tolerances are set to suit what you're using it for. So if you were building cars purely for drag race, I would build it very differently to road and sort of occasional track days. So even piston ring gaps, piston clearances, the whole lot, they would all be different. So we will build an engine to suit what you want. And again, the turbo we will spec to suit your general needs rather than just a peak horsepower figure. We can all chase figures and we can try and hit a headline figure, but it doesn't necessarily mean the car will be quicker for everyday use. You could chase a figure of 900 horsepower, but you will have a graph that goes like that. And for what you're looking for everyday use, for your European road trips, occasional track days, you want a craft that does that.
Okay.
So you end up with a slightly smaller peak figure, but you end up with a much wider spread of torque and horsepower, and that's the sort of thing we'll be shooting for.
Okay.
You've said you want to see it around sort of 600 horsepower figure.
Yeah.
We know the 770 will do 580 on normal pump gas on a good build motor,
Yeah.
and the 85 you can see upwards of 600 on. So we can do maps to suit both.
The smile on my face. Okay.
Obviously, if you're running the 85, you have to upgrade your fuel system a fair bit more than just with 99.
Okay.
So you can run in bigger injectors, bigger fuel pumps,
Yeah.
different fuel lines to cope with
Thank you, mate.
Cheers, Al. Yeah, basically you go through everything. So,
Okay.
but the key to it all is the engine to start with.
So another question I have is, once you've built the engine, say for example we put the turbo and the manifold, everything, it's mapped, and I say to myself, you know what, 600 is not enough horsepower. Is it a lot more work to get that power up? I know obviously you have to change the turbo, but I mean,
you would then look at CAM's solid lifter conversion on the turbo.
Okay.
The bottom end, if you wanted to go crazy numbers, you would be looking at a billet crankshaft for it. But
Okay.
at the numbers we've talked about, you'll get away with a standard crank. If you want to go crazy, you go billet crank.
Okay.
So it's just something to consider
Yeah.
if you're planning on ramping up later on.
Definitely.
Because you will reach the limits of standard crank, but they will do those figures you're talking about in a minute.
Okay.
But actually, in terms of piston and rod choice, no, you don't need to change them. The valve train would be the same. It would just literally be the CAM's solid lifter conversion, that sort of thing that you would need, and you'd do that mainly because the bigger the turbo you put on there, the more lag you get.
Yeah.
And if you keep the same RPM limit, you get a narrower power band. So
Okay.
you would want to be able to rev the engine harder to have a decent power band. So you're going to need to go to solid lifter at that point.
Okay. Okay. I'm with
Alright.
you. Let's get it paid for then. Let's do it.
So start with the basic engine, build it right. If you turn around and said to me, actually, we'll do 600 horsepower now, but I want 750, 800 horsepower.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we would have to build it very differently to give you that scope.
Okay.
So you need to think about what you want, and I always say this to all my customers: what's your end goal with a car? When we build, even like older cars, we got Mark II Golf out there building an engine with. What's your end goal with it?
Okay.
Not where you want to be now, because build the engine right for where you want to get to, not for today.
Yeah.
And I always try and do that because it saves you a lot of money in the long run. Because if we build you something now that you then say, oh yeah, I want to put a bigger turbo on it and I want to take it to 8,500 RPM, we've got to strip that back down again to do the changes for the head work and stuff like that. You don't throw all the components in the bin, like I say, you keep the rods, you keep the pistons, that sort of stuff. But you're going to be into a lot more labour and time and components to do it then that you could do it all in one go.
Okay.
It's obviously more money, but it's less in the long run.
Okay.
It'll save you a lot of money in the long run.
Okay.
So it's just something to consider.
Okay. So before we go out of here, my last question is: all right, in terms of parts,
Yep.
what kind of intercooler would I need? Could I use? Like, so, for example, I can get hold of a Wagner intercooler.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
If it's a race one, yeah.
Yeah, race Wagner intercooler.
Yeah.
In terms of downpipes, Miltech.
No, it would be a Nortec one with the Nortec manifold to suit this kit. They do an off-the-shelf kit that does it.
Okay. So would that be a complete exhaust system, or is it just?
No, it's just manifold and downpipe to suit the external wastegate and that. And
so then, what could I run off that in terms of the exhaust?
we can either build you a custom system, or you can run a Miltec or something like that.
What inch Miltech would I need?
You'd want 3 inch on that minimum.
3 inch, yeah.
Yeah, minimum.
Okay. What questions have I got? Kind of what are you going to be using APR
Software? No, we'll be using EcoTune for that. EcoTune Scotland,
yeah.
not people down the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, they provide all my stage 3 software. They've done Dave's stage 3 software.
Yeah.
The only stuff they don't do for me is my 20 valves.
Okay.
The older stuff. So, but all the sort of TFSI upwards, they do my stage 3 tuning.
Okay. I'm excited for this, man.
Right.
Very, very excited for this. Before we cut off the camera, do you want to just show me a few things in your shop, what you've got in a minute?
Yeah, we'll show you a few things, yeah.
So I clocked that turbo that's out of the engine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's a fair old size.
That's a big one, mate. Well, thank you so much as well, Tom, man. I appreciate it.
So there she is. That's a G40 1400 Carrot.
The size of it, man.
Yeah, it is enormous. It weighs a ton as well. So we've got to make some support work for it. But yeah, that's the beast. So we test fitted it to make sure it would physically fit in the engine bay, which it will. So we've now got to start heat lagging absolutely everything in the engine bay and sort of doing final assembly here.
Yeah.
Ready to drop it back in.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got that. In fact, that's the customer's other car up there. It's an RS3 AP, and that's
Got big money then. Jeez.
Like turbo on it.
Yeah.
That one was mapped by MRC tuning before he bought it. So
Okay.
and now we maintain it. We got the Mark 5 race car.
I've got to have a look at this, mate. Jeez. It's bright.
It's definitely bright, yeah. So we'll be out with 5 of them at the weekend up at Walton Park. They're only limited to 260 horsepower, but they're very, very capable on track.
Okay.
So they're all of our builds are running AST suspension, custom built for us with our own damping spring rates on it.
Okay.
Engine-wise, they're fairly standard. They're only allowed downpipe and exhaust system, free flow air filter, and a map.
Yeah.
They're limited to 260 horsepower.
Okay.
But it's very, very competitive because they're all the same horsepower.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all very, very close. So I think at Brands the other weekend, I think there was less than a second over the whole grid.
Really?
So yeah, it's really, really close.
Jeez. That's what you want though, innit? This RS3 looks sick, man. I've always liked black cars.
Well, it's not actually black in the light. It's that.
It's purple, isn't it?
It's a bit like the Leon K1.
Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's like a dark. That's not midnight, but it's darker than that, isn't it?
It's an individual colour. That one.
Is it?
Yeah, it's factory individual.
Sick.
So yeah, it's a lovely car. Nice bit of kit. That's just in for brakes all round, gears fuel, change,
Yeah.
Haldex, just some service work really.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, I appreciate all your time, man.
No, that's all right.
I'm looking forward to working with you.
Not a problem.